it's not just the strict 7. There's a strategy that follows it that you follow as you qualify men to be your strict 7 men. I love giving the first 3 because those are what solve, I would say, 80-90% of the problems.
Okay.
If you stick to these 3, your love life will begin to change. Number 1, you choose a man who makes you feel safe on all levels. He must make you feel safe on all levels, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, sexually. I do have a no tolerance rule here. It's not like, let's just wait and see if he becomes financially safe or becomes emotionally, or let's do I met a guy, but maybe we should start doing therapy together. It's like, no, abundant world. You don't have to settle here, stop here, because you get where you stop, right? And so we need to keep you moving forward and to teach you how to stop settling and learn how to get the guy who aligns to this new version of you who's learning to be strong and hold your value. So that's rule number 1.
Christine Campbell Pate, welcome to the show. This has been something I've been so excited to jump on with you. I mean, this is like an aha moment for me because we go way back.
Right.
We were best friends. I think it was about 24 years ago. So long time ago. And we were so different back then. My goodness. It's just amazing to see you today. Number 1, you look the exact same. I'm not even kidding.
Thank you.
Everybody on YouTube, just so you know, this woman has not changed over 24 years. It's insane. But it's just such a remarkable thing to see you today and the extraordinary woman you become. And I'm just so proud of you. So Christine, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Erica, for having me on your podcast. Likewise, I'm so proud of how far you've come and the things, going back to college when we first met and the journey we've both been on, and just seeing the woman you've become so empowered. And this podcast is incredible. And yeah, I mean, we both just have been living our journey.
I know. Isn't that so true? Well, let's go back to the journey I remember with you, which is so wild because this is part of your story. I remember there was a period when we were both single and you were going on like 3 to 4 dates a week. And I'm like, how does this woman do it? I don't even understand. But you were just like so vibrant and alive and you were enjoying the process of it. I remember. And that's what's so wild is that's part of your story today. And so, between all the dating and relationships you had back then before marrying your now husband, what was a pattern you saw repeating through all of these? Would you say there was a common thread?
Great question. Well, the common thread at the end of the day was me. I mean, it was, it's so quick to say, it's so easy to say when you're single, it's everybody else's problem. Like, I'm not the problem. They're the problem. The guys are the problem. The apps are the problem, whatever it may be, so to blame. And the truth is, it's not until you're able to take responsibility and really look at yourself and say, why do I keep repeating these patterns? Why am I, let's just look at what I would question myself when I was many years into the journey of being basically chronically single, was, okay, if I'm responsible, then what is going on with me that has me consistently picking the wrong guy, consistently finding a flaw in every guy I go out with? When I do find a great guy, he's boring, or suddenly I have all these excuses as to why he's not the one. And then I continue on until I meet this unhealthy narcissistic guy, or this guy who's just not right in any way. And then I choose this one, and then I'm back in a relationship with this one. And then here we go, not happy again, breaking up again. Right. And so for anyone who is relating to what I'm saying, this is a lot of women's story. It's not them. Yes, right.
I raise my hand because this is very much my story.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
Them who have to change. It's you. You get to change. You get to be whatever it may be that is your pattern. In my case, I had to hold my worth. I was not understanding that I was I was always compromising my worth, choosing someone, accepting the crumbs, accepting the abuse, accepting the stories, accepting, just low. I had very low expectations, and I wasn't holding myself as a high value woman. I wasn't saying, no, this is an abundant world. I was dating with scarcity. When I'd be in a relationship, I'd think, what if I can't find someone better than this? And of course, when you're accepting crumbs and abuse, there's definitely somebody out there who's way better than that. But you get to be the one who says, I deserve better. And so that was definitely what I learned along the way. I deserved better. I was a high value woman. I was worthy of having the things I wanted. I needed to learn what those things were because I'd never sat down and even thought about it. I never, before, learning, like diving into the coaching and learning all of this, I never had sat down and said, well, what do I want? How do I want this man to make my future husband to make me feel? And that is so important that you decide, as you would with any venture, new venture, business, health, whatever it may be, what do you want and what are you building here? Right? And so that's the most important thing, I would say, is, in summary, focusing on becoming your best self, your most empowered self, your happiest self, and learning how to hold standards and set boundaries as you start dating that protect the things that you say you want.
So good. I mean, this is the work I did. And this is, you said one keyword, and this radically changed my life when you said responsibility. That was literally the exact catalyst that changed everything for me. Was I like, oh wait, I am the common denominator in all these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I must be at fault of something. And I hate to break it to all of us, but we play a part in our own misery very many times. And so we have to be able to turn the mirror on ourselves and ask why and how am I showing up? What am I doing to maybe accept this or condone this, or maybe am I lying to myself that this person's better than they actually are for me, right? And so I love that you talk about that. That's so, so key. And so what did you find out? Because I think this is a key question, because with all that you said, what did you find out about yourself that was maybe not holding your worth, or maybe not keeping to a certain standard or boundaries? What did you find out about yourself that this story that you had on loop that was repeating these same patterns?
The story, I didn't even have a story. You know what? I did have a story. Now that you asked that, that I played a very good victim when
Mm.
I was single. Again, going back into blame, not taking any responsibility. Everybody else's fault, his fault, the way he treated me. But really, at the end of the day, and again, I wasn't aware enough at the time. I wasn't evolved enough to have these empowered conversations to even be able to reflect back and say, see the solution. I was always stuck in the problem.
Mm.
But what I really was fear based. I was living with so much fear of everything, fear of being on my own, fear of starting over, fear of not finding another guy at this level, fear of, again, with my story, from Canada, 25 years on a visa in the States, there's a lot of fear aligned with that. And in many ways, there was just so much fear, no matter where I looked. Um, that was the space where, you start to look at, how is this fear, the things I'm scared of, the reasons why I'm not leaving, the reasons why I'm not getting into this, picking this guy, how is that serving me? Like, even if it was when I was dating with a guy, it'd be the fear of the unknown. Well, if I leave him, then what? Start over? Again, that story. What if I don't meet someone who's as good as this guy, even though he wasn't great? When I was single, fear of entrapment. Okay, well, being in a relationship is so hard because I'm not happy in them. Well, now if I get into a relationship and choose a guy, well, what if he makes me miserable? Because actually, I'm doing pretty darn good single. And so then these great guys would come and I'd find that flaw. Ooh, there it is. This is why this guy will never be. He doesn't know. I remember the silliest ones I would come up with.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he doesn't know what Cabernet is. Oh, not sophisticated enough. Oh my goodness, he has too blonde of eyelashes. This is not going to work. Like, I would find, oh, I don't like his running shoes. Ooh, he wears those running shoes. Not going to go out with this guy. Not realizing that was a fear of commitment.
Mm. I think for anybody listening right now could really see themselves in your story of the little bit you share right now. And I think that is the root of it all, is fear, right? And obviously there's different roots to our fear, whether it be in childhood or trauma from another relationship, abuse, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's always fear, right? And so the question is, well, first of all, I want to know, so obviously fast forward when you started to be like, okay, enough is enough. I'm taking responsibility for myself. Obviously things need to change because it's not working out. What did you then do?
So the turning point, I would say, it wasn't a piece of information that went, oh, that's going to solve everything. I mean, there was some beautiful, magical pieces of information, these ahas that were like, whoa, okay. Along the way, I can think of a couple nuggets. Again, because it wasn't just one thing.
Right.
Number one, it was learning to date based off how a man made me feel, not based off what I wanted. That one was really big because I always dated with a list. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. If I was once asked by a love coach friend, well, how do you want him to make you feel? And I was stumped. I'd never thought about that. I wanted the fun, successful, good looking, exciting, like nice guy who was, I hadn't even gone that deep into that. And so I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know. And she had to coach me out of like safe, important, um, beautiful.
Trustworthy,
Yeah,
integrity, honest.
feel,
Yeah.
that's a safe. Do you want to feel valued? Do you want to feel, um, do you want to feel empowered in this relationship? Like, how do you want to feel? Special? And so that was a big stretch. I was like, oh, this is gold. This is dating gold. So if I start thinking about this, of course, you get to have your want list. We're all going to have it. But you will most likely get what you want if you date based off what you need versus what you want. You'll usually be disappointed if you don't get what you need in the relationship, right? So that was a huge, huge shift in the way that I started seeing my dating experience. What do I need from my future partner? Um, and then based off, the deeper work, why am I, where am I at today? And this was again closer to the point where I met my husband. But what is it that was truly holding me back now? And this piece of information came from an interview I did when I used to do summits. So I interviewed like 250 love experts back in the day. And I would just interview them as a single woman saying, and tell me this, and got so much great nuggets back. There was one really smart therapist, and he was just saying, we talked about commitment issues. And he was explaining that there is the fear of being hurt and there's the fear of being trapped, right? And the hurt part, I honestly at this point could care less about. I wasn't afraid of being hurt. I was very resilient, but I was terrified of being trapped. And that meant being emotionally stuck as a codependent, back in the day, emotionally dependent on someone where I get emotionally trapped in that relationship. And then whether it be financially trapped, which I've been many times by men, but emotionally trapped where then I couldn't get out. And that was paralyzing for me. And so when I started to understand that more, and that one of my greatest values in dating and in a relationship was freedom, I had to have freedom or it wouldn't work. Then it shifted me into what my needs were. Let's go back to those needs. I needed a man who was capable of giving me the freedom that I needed and who also valued freedom, because it wouldn't work if he didn't.
Right.
Right? That became one of my top priorities when I started to date. Is I felt a guy started to get a little bit too needy or talk about you and me together, every single thing all the time, and us. And, oh, I don't believe in you having, too much time with your girlfriends, or I don't think I would start to feel that suffocation. And I would just realize I don't need to change this man. I don't need to talk him out of it, change his mind. I need to realize this guy's values and my values don't match. And so that was one beautiful thing that happened when I met my husband, is him and I are very much freedom seekers. And even our whole life, our marriage vision is all about the freedom that we are creating together as entrepreneurs, traveling the world together, just the freedom we have in our life to get today. It's just everywhere. We have so much of it, and we give each other so much of it. We have like 100% trust. So there's nothing that he can do or I can do where there's a, it's just like you get to do you, I get to do me, and we get to do us together. And it's just brings so much peace. And so in the past, I had obviously the wrong partners. But learning what you value, especially your top values, is again something that will make an incredible difference when it comes to how you start to date and choose.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate two really important points you made. Number one, questioning how do you want to feel in a relationship. I think that is so powerful. And it's interesting because I'm sure a lot of people also are thinking they've never thought about that either. And the feeling is what we should go after, not our wants, because our wants are, like thinking with our mind, but that could be deceiving. Our heart never fails, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing you said. And then the other one is so key is asking what you need, not necessarily what you want. Because you could have a list of, I remember this was one of the things I went through when I was doing the work and really transformed everything for me before meeting my now husband,
Mm-hmm.
was where I wrote, instead of just writing down the things I wanted, like I typically do, like us women do, especially us ambitious women, we write out all these wants, but then to actually like look at the list and say, what do I actually need? Like, what does my soul and my heart and my, just my nervous system need? So I think that is so powerful. And I think that's two questions we should all ask ourselves. That's like the best place to start for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And asking what you value, but that kind of all those two intertwine and kind of coming up what you would really value. So it's so powerful. Okay, so talking about ambitious women, since I know that's who you serve today, and especially I think those are the women that really struggle in dating from my experience and noticing of myself, and then also just hearing other things online and people I've interviewed. So what have you found highly ambitious, strong, successful women struggle most with in their dating life? And
Mm-hmm.
then what is the common blocks you see happening?
Well, first off, I know that was one of your greatest struggles because you are a strong, independent Leo woman, right? But truth is,
She knows me so well.
and truth, now overall, it's like career women are, in essence, how I see it, programmed to be self-sufficient, to do things on their own, to be independent, and to learn that they generally can only trust themselves. The person who's going to provide for them, protect them, is themselves. And there's something that's happened to them along their journey of life that has taught them that. I don't know if it's the mother, the father, or the men that they dated, or the ex-husbands, whoever it is, something taught them that I can only trust myself here. I'm going to take the best care of myself. And this way of being is masculine.
Right.
This is living life like a man,
Yeah.
right? And then you lead the world in this productive doing, like almost not forceful way, but some women are very forceful. They walk into rooms and they take over things, and they're leading with accomplishments, and they're leading with like the controller, like I'll do that and I'll get that, and you don't need to because I've got this taken care of, and it's subconscious. And even if they're like some of me say they have to be trained or have to be taught, coached about consciously stepping into the feminine and leaning back to even understand that they're doing that because it's just normal. And so I love my independent, successful career women. I'm one. I learned it along the way. I wasn't born to be a strong woman. I was born to be a very feminine, soft woman, but life taught me to be strong. And if I didn't become strong, I wouldn't have survived, right? I had to learn it. And then when I got a taste of it, I loved it. I was like, ooh, power. Feels so good. And I moved into my masculine. And I remember dating in my masculine. This is when I remember it perfectly at Motodoc. So I was a fashion designer at a clothing line, big clothing line. I was head designer. We were producing just a massive line of clothing. And in that, I had my new car, and I was only 29, I think. You were my
I
fit
remember these days.
was my
Yeah.
fit model. And, I was feeling very proud of myself, very empowered, very powerful, making great money. I was single for the first time in my life. At 29, I was head of this big line of clothing. I was flying to China. I was just so proud. I was like, look at me. Look what I've created. I'm so accomplished. And I dated like that. I went out with this whole like pull up, walk out, walk in. Like I was walking into a business meeting, like I felt the power around me. I was kind of like, okay, we're here. Let's do this date. Like, let's just do this. Like, where are we sitting? What are we doing? I was so in director mode. Okay, we're sitting here. Are we going to get some wine? Should we bring us wine? I was the man.
Mm,
And that's when I heard all the time, you're so intimidating.
right.
Oh,
Oh,
you're a
good.
very intimidating woman. And at
Yeah.
first I was like, thanks. I know. Like, I didn't say I know, but I was just like, it was a compliment, not realizing that wasn't a compliment because the conversations would then turn to business. And I'd have these business dates where these men just want to learn and now they want to get me a lawyer for this or help me grow a business here. And we'd have these business meeting dates. And I'd leave the date thinking it went great and I'd never hear from them again. I'd be confused. I'd be like, I like that guy. I don't understand. I love that conversation. It was all business. I like that. And I just didn't realize I was doing it wrong. And that men don't want to date a man. Men don't want to marry a man. And it took me a long time to start to figure that out. And when
Girl.
I,
Okay, so this speaks literally to me. I'm sure a lot of people listening right now can really hear this right now, how true this is for them, or maybe they haven't realized yet that it is true for them. And I think this is really, for me, it was an aha moment. She just basically said exactly what, not to the T, what I was doing, but very much of my journey was exactly as she pointed out to me. I'm this strong, independent Leo woman. Yes, that's exactly how I showed up, is this strong. I was always told I was very intimidating. I thought it was a compliment. Come to find out, that's what the intimidating thing was, is I was very strong, like a strong woman. But in dating, that is the thing, is like if we want to attract a masculine male, which I know many ambitious women do, because they don't want to always run the show. I think deep down, we're not meant to run the show. That's why there's feminine attributes and masculine attributes. But we don't realize, because you touched on so much. I don't even need to reiterate the words. Just go back and listen to that again, because I think that really needs to drill home for some women. And it really landed for me when I did this work, because I was realizing that, oh my gosh, I do operate in a lot of ways in my masculine energy. I was like the pursuer. I was the one that said, like, I love you first.
I
And
remember.
yeah, so she knows a lot of my history. She doesn't know after, like, there was a time we didn't know each other, that we, fell apart a little bit, but you know, it was really emphasized later years in my life. And that's why, like, I got hit with a ton of bricks and I realized, oh shit, I'm like part of the problem. And that was literally, I had to learn this feminine, masculine energy. And it's something that took practice. It didn't change overnight. I imagine the same for you, because get we get used to operating this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it takes time. But I love that you touch on that, because it's such a key component in the work I know you help other women in, is teaching women to, again, like, date in our feminine energy, and how attractive that is. It's magnetic to a man.
Yes.
So
And honestly, it's so much easier.
yeah,
It is easier when
it's
you
like
learn how
cutting
to
off.
look back, when you learn how to receive, when you learn how to let a man be a man and take care of you, provide for you, protect you. It really is like easy breezy in dating. And then things shift in, commitment, and then in marriage, things do shift in many ways because our roles change and responsibilities change. But if you want a man who's going to, in essence, take care of you and your family for the rest of your life, you need to learn how to shift into that feminine, even though it's hard. It is hard. Even in marriage, it's hard. I have to remind myself all the time when I start losing, when I start taking lead
Mm,
in the marriage, which is very easy for me to do. I have to remind myself, I'm feeling this way in this moment, this frustration, or not getting what I feel my husband stepping up the way I want him to step up because I've stepped forward too much. I just need to chill out, relax, trust him, and relax back in my feminine in this marriage. And always, who steps up? He does. And I'm like, oh, there we go. But they're just responding to. I mean, most husbands are just responding to their wives.
Exactly.
And one more point is if the other sign that you are dating in your masculine is if you're attracting beta men. If you have a history of beta men, meaning men who are more, as I want to say, followers, lean back, expect you to do everything, expect you to pay for things, um, expect you to plan everything, just sort of act a little lazy in the relationship, you got a beta. And that's because you're in your masculine.
Absolutely. And I think that's a key point for women to hear is we actually do influence the man
Mm-hmm.
by leaning more in our feminine energy. The man feels compelled to step up in his masculine energy. And so I do think it's like constantly reminding ourselves, oh, like let the man take lead. Let him make the plan. Let him, order the dinner for us or whatever. And I think some women, because there's a lot of, CEO owners and entrepreneurs and people in this role, this masculine role in work. And so they're used to like making decisions. But I
Mm-hmm.
think if you want to be successful in having, and we're talking about like a male feminine relationship, obviously, that dynamic, but even in same sex relationship, there's still a masculine and feminine energy. Like one plays more the role. So it's key to have that polarity. And I think that's what keeps the sexual tension. That's what keeps it strong and healthy. And I know a lot of the things you teach, and I love so much what you're sharing on your social media right now. It's actual like tangible things we could really think about in the way we're responding, the way we're talking, the way we're dating, whatever it may be. You really give some tangible advice of how we could operate differently than how
Mm-hmm.
we show up in work. And so everybody has to check out her Instagram. Of course, that's going to be in the show notes. So don't miss that for sure. But I want to get back to it. So let's unravel a little bit deeper. So I feel like we self-sabotage relationships a lot. So what is the common thing you're seeing in your clients that they do to self-sabotage the relationships besides the operating their masculine energy?
Sabotage. So the way I see it is I have a very strict dating strategy that my clients follow. It's called the strict 7 dating strategy. And I'm like, you come in, we create this strategy, and their job is to follow the strategy. And so you cannot date a guy who's not a strict 7 in my community. When you date a guy who's not a strict 7, you're sabotaging. That means you're going back to the old patterns that did not work, right? And those are the hardest things to change. How do I not go after the guy who I'm programmed to choose? Because my dad abandoned us, or he maybe, he, whatever the story is, I won't go deep into that. But it's like there's a lot of reasons why we are programmed to choose the men we're programmed to choose. Breaking that is the key to your success. To do things different than when things aren't working in your dating and love life, to learn how to do things different, to learn how to do almost the opposite, right? And to find the comfort in that. So, as I'm coaching women through the strategy, you see it happening all the time. It's like, even though they know I should not date that guy, I shouldn't date the married guy, I shouldn't date the guy um, who's just told me that he doesn't want a relationship. I shouldn't date the guy who just said he doesn't want to get married and have children. Um, I know, the girl who normally pursues. She knows she shouldn't pursue, but here she is pursuing still. Just not taking the advice that, and again, I'm talking about women who I'm coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
Different from women who are not being coached. They're just on autopilot. But when you're being coached, it's not, in essence, trusting the coach and trusting yourself and doing the work and digging in when things get hard. When you are the girl who walks in and starts taking charge, this is that moment where you're like, okay, here it is. The sabotager will keep on doing it. You know what? F this coaching. I'm just going to do this because I don't want to. It's just too hard. Like, you know what? This guy, I already know he's not going to. I'm just going to do it. Right there, sabotage.
Yeah.
Because you haven't given. You're not even taking the moment to practice being different, to practice the tools, to practice change. And it's through the practice that you actually start to evolve. You can't read a book about dating without applying it and think you're going to become a great dater. It doesn't work that way. You have to go out, get messy, make mistakes, feel foolish, get frustrated, say the thing you don't want to say, be quiet when you want to talk, walk out on that guy when you don't want to, stay with the guy who you think is a little bit, nice but boring. Like just do the things that are different, and you will learn that those where the greatest lessons are.
Hmm.
In those uncomfortable moments when you're doing something different than you normally do it. And so the sabotagers do the things they always do and they stay in comfort, even though it's leading them down dark paths usually, and they'll consistently sabotage their love success. And the women who succeed are the ones who are coachable and who are committed to their vision and say, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to get what I want. And this is where those masculine, ways of being come in very handy. And they embrace discomfort.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Okay, so the strict seven, could you reveal some of them? Because I still want to get into a lot more of the trenches of all this, but I'm just curious, some of the strict seven,
Sure. Well,
just for some of us to think about.
yeah, it is a strategy. So it's not just the strict seven. There's a strategy that follows it that you follow as you qualify men to be your strict seven men. I love giving the first three because those are what solve, I would say, 80-90% of the problems.
Okay.
If you stick to these three, your love life will begin to change. Number one, you choose a man who makes you feel safe on all levels. He must make you feel safe on all levels, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, sexually. And because I date women who are ready for extraordinary love, I do have a no tolerance rule here. It's not like, let's just wait and see if he becomes financially safe or becomes emotionally, or let's do some, I met a guy, but maybe we should start doing therapy together. It's like, no, abundant world. You don't have to settle here, stop here, because you get where you stop.
Mm.
Right? And so we need to keep you moving forward and teach you how to stop settling and learn how to get the guy who aligns to this new version of you who's learning to be strong and hold your value. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, he must be pursuing you. He must be consistent. He must be making you feel like he must make you feel special. Like, if I was to ask you, so you have this new guy, we're deciding if he's a strict seven, do you know that he wants you? If the answer is no, I don't know, I'm not sure, well, then he's not a strict seven.
Right.
These guys, strict sevens, come on hard, come on strong. They're masculine men. They know what they want. They have a vision too. They know if they are ready to get married, if they want to have children. The guys who are just having fun, they can show up that way. But point is, right now, you want a guy who is consistent. He's asking you out regularly. You're not sitting there waiting for 2 weeks for a phone call. You're not, there's no nerves in you that are like, oh, what happened to this guy? Strict sevens show up. Okay. Number three, he must want what you want. You must be on the same timeline. This is why it's so important for women to know what it is they want. So when I was following the strict seven dating strategy, which is what had me find Steve, I wanted to get married and have children within 2 years. I was 40 years old. So I was like, I knew enough now. I was ready. I was like, I trusted myself to make a good choice this time. I knew I would walk away from the wrong guy quick. So I was like, okay, I knew how to date as a queen, in my queen. And so I was very clear. I will only date men who are open and ready to get married open and ready to have children and get married in the next 2 years. Get married and have children in the next 2 years. Only those men. So as I was dating in this final round, I would be quite bold about it. I wasn't like, oh, I shouldn't mention that because then he'll think I want to get married or something. Like, don't you want a man
Well,
if you
because
want
it
to get married?
can, I know that, and I'm actually curious your opinion on that, not to interrupt, but
Mhm.
I think some people, some women might be wondering, like, should I talk about that on like the early dates? Because it can, for some men, it could push them away. But again, as you're talking about, then he's not your guy because you have a strict seven, right? But I think, some women need to hear that, especially, I mean, we're, At the time, she was 40. I'm 44 right now. And I totally understand this concept. Depending the stage you are in your life, sometimes timing does matter, and sometimes your needs and desires at that moment are so important that you should live by that. Like, that's your non-negotiable, if you want to say. And so I'm just curious, anyways,
The way
continue with
that
your
I love
story.
to,
But
yeah, we just talk on that for a second. The way that I love to share that is, again, as an empowerment coach for women. We're not, women, as a coach that's helping other women not live with fear. The second you're afraid to share what you're dating, the reason that you're dating, the second you hold back about, well, I shouldn't say that because what if I scare him away? So
right.
that's why you won't say it. What if I come on too like strong or too needy? It's in the deliverance. It's not in particularly what you say. It's very easy to say almost anything in your feminine, and you don't necessarily even have to say, "This is what I want." You can find out what they want, and then you decide, does that match or not?
Hmm.
Okay, but if you are dating with intention, you're the woman who says, "This is, I'm ready. I've been through enough. I want to be in this. I want to get married." Well, you own that because that's where you're at, and now it's all about finding first the men who are on the same page, and then filtering that down to the one. But it's no different than if you were to go out on a date with a guy, and he was afraid to mention to you that he wants marriage and children. So he's dancing around it. You ask him, so what do you want? Oh, just dating right now. And he's not clear. He's fear-based. He's insecure about it. He's uncertain. He's lacking confidence there. And it doesn't show up just in that question. It shows up everywhere. Because if
Hmm.
you're the type of woman that's afraid to say what you want, well, trust me, I know that there's a lot of insecurities in other parts of who you are. And so as a woman, we know when we're on a date with a guy who lacks confidence and struggles with some insecurity. I hear it all the time. That's why they say confidence is one of the top attraction factors for men and women is confidence, right? And a confident woman is going to come in and say, as the date starts to progress, and as she starts to get to know someone, or even on a first conversation, you're filling out the conversation, and there's that opportunity where you kind of start to wonder, I wonder what this guy's looking for. Is this guy worth my time? And you ask him, so, what's your purpose of dating right now? And you wait for that response. And he might say, oh, just fun. Oh, I'm just getting back out there. Oh, or he might be the guy who says, I'm really looking for a relationship. Great, check. Not a strict 7 yet, but he gets a little check. And you can progress further there if you want, but that might be a great place to stop. These are the women who don't want to put it all on the table too soon. And go out with this guy and see then, who is this guy? He wants a relationship. And on that date, you can ask a few more questions. So you mentioned that you're looking for a relationship. What does that mean to you?
Right.
Well, I'm looking for, and you can say, as a conversation flows back and forth, just be open and honest and speak from your heart, not your head, from your heart, and share what is your reason for dating. Well, I'm really ready. I've dated a lot. Notice my voice is calmer right now because I'm in my feminine. I'm not like I dated a lot and this is what you're in your feminine. You're just conversing. I dated a lot. I'm not looking for casual anymore. At this point in my life, I'm really ready to meet my match, meet a wonderful man who, we ultimately end up in my dream world, getting married and having children when the time is right. No pressure. There's no pressure in that. That's just you saying, this is what I'd like. Now, if a man said that, would it be a turnoff? If a man said, I'm back out there. I've been around the block a few times. I'm at a point in my life where I really want to get to the next chapter, and I really love to find an amazing woman to settle down with and have kids. Like, would that make a woman run? No. It will
Right.
make
So
the woman
attractive.
who's looking for the same thing go, really? Lean in. Wow, that's amazing. Like, suddenly you're on the same page. And that's how
So
it should feel.
what you're talking about, and I think this is a lot of what you share on your social that I really am admired by is, again, this goes to the tactical tips that we could start practicing, is
Mhm.
this way of talking to a masculine male in our feminine energy so that he could hear us
Mhm.
instead of be scared off by exactly what we said. It's more in the deliverance. I think people really need to hear that. Oh, that's so good. I mean, it is in the way we say things, because when you just reiterated like your response to that, I was received like I was just thinking, if I was a man hearing those words that you just said, it would be like, wow, this woman, number one, knows what she wants. And she's also really confident, and she's being honest. And I don't feel pressured. Like
Mhm.
all the good things that men want.
Yeah.
So that is so important for women to know, it's in the deliverance and
Mhm.
really, again, rooting back into that feminine energy so that he could then hear you.
Yeah. And
So
the
good.
truth is, you want the guys who are not a match to leave. You want them to be removed, to remove themselves. Because why would you want to spend time with a guy who's not the right match? You've done that your whole life, right? You want to find guys, align with guys who potentially could be. That's also the rules in, the strategy where I really take a stand for no sex before commitment. Really take a stand for it.
Yeah, I would love to. Let's hear that. Let's
Yeah,
talk about this because it's not, some might go against that one. I'm sure you've had pushback on this
oh,
one.
for sure. For
Yeah. So I'm
sure.
curious.
Like,
And I would,
I can't wait that long. I'm like,
yeah.
I
And
understand.
I mean, it's hard, but actually, I want you to explain why, most
Yeah.
importantly.
So I understand it's not the norm, but I have women wait until like, ideally 3 months, ideally, which is not that long. I know in the moment you might be like 3 months. I have needs, but also it's like 3 months is nothing in the span of a marriage. Three
Right.
months, if this is your guy and you want to get married, is nothing in the span of a 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old marriage, 80-year long marriage. If a man is not willing to wait and put the effort in for you for 3 months and to respect your needs and your boundaries and just allow you to feel safe, well, he's not going to do that for the rest of your life. So this isn't about them, it's about you. It's about getting the best man for you and about feeling safe when you have sex with a man for the first time and waking up in the arms of a man who is your boyfriend, right? That's what it's about. About about showing up in a way that is so valuable, so honorable, so self-respecting, so self-loving that this man learns you this way. You're teaching him who you are. So he's learning, wow, this woman has very strong standards for herself. She's not running around throwing sex, using sex as a tool to get guys. She's knows what she wants. Here we are again. She's confident in expressing that. She's not afraid to set a boundary. And there's a way of doing this again in the feminine
Hmm.
that doesn't, it actually inspires men to pursue versus scares them away, right? And that's taught. That's a whole other, that's just feminine communication. But the reason is you're teaching them who you are. You're teaching them you're a queen. You're teaching them your wife material. And the one night stand girls, and I've done it, those relationships didn't turn into marriage. I got
No,
the
never
booty calls
do.
after that. I got the 11 p.m. what you doing calls
Right.
from doing that. I got the guys who would disappear for a month and call back, hey, and you can it doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel needy and desperate and unworthy, and so many women still chase that though. And so
Yeah.
this style, the style of dating, which is queen building,
Hmm.
right? Not only teaches you how to value, like it really teaches a woman how to do things different and how to treat herself as her own queen, and how to date, how to be high value. And as you learn to be high value, you become high value. Does that make sense? Like
Absolutely.
now that I'm being it, I get to become it. And as you become, your self respect grows. The first time you say, you know what, like I can't, or that's not what I'm looking for. And normally you always just said yes and you said no. There's something that just shifts immediately in you. And it's also a message to God that says, you're ready for the next. level of king, right? I see you're starting to step into it now, and you're learning how to be this woman, this beautiful, empowered, worthy woman. And that woman attracts a higher value man, naturally. So it's again in the training of becoming the woman who says and owns, I don't have sex outside of relationships. You don't have to tell the guy this will be my last one. We don't know that. But I'm just a woman who does not. I've been there, done it. It's not what I'm looking for. That is, where the change really happens.
So good. So true. I mean, gosh, it's just, I wish I like I said, I wish I was working with you back when I was really like going through the trenches of this. Like, and I think, you nailed it on the head is when you, this is my personal opinion, because I think a lot of us have repeated the same mistakes, and it's like we somewhat get like the lesson, but then we do it again, right? And the cycle continues and it just gets louder and louder and louder.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for myself, when I was finally like, okay, enough is enough. I get it. All right. I see the lesson clear as day. I should not do this anymore. And I remember universe came in and tried to like, sweep me again. And it happened. I remember this incident. It happened. But then when I remind myself, like, no, I want to be a different person. Like, I need to change something. And I think, like you said, God comes in when you start to change your behavior, like go against the same thing you were doing over and over. Once you start to change, that's when miracles really start to show up. And that's when you start to attract different men. You start to date differently. It's like you're starting to become that
Yeah.
woman you envision yourself to be. And so powerful. I don't know what woman listening to this wouldn't want this, right? Everything she is talking about. So, so good. What would you say is for those that are dating and obviously looking for the man they're wanting to marry? What are some clear, warning signs that he is not marriage material? Like just naming 3 off the bat.
Marriage material. Okay, well, first and foremost, the thing that comes to mind is a man who tells you he's not ready for marriage. So many women do not listen.
Right.
They think they will convince the guy to marry them. Like, you must, at this point, if you are ready if you're ready for extraordinary love and you want it like the next year, couple of years, one, men will tell you where they're at. Trust them. They're telling you the truth. They're not lying to you. They are telling you the truth. Secondly, if you try, just this is a rule that should be just in like frames around people's houses who are dating. Never date a guy who you want to change. If you're dating a guy and suddenly there's a list of things that you need to change
Mm,
before he'll be good enough for you or he'll be right for you, that is quite selfish, to be honest. It's a selfish way of dating.
right.
Because would you want someone to come in and say, I'll pick you if you change?
Absolutely not. Right.
If you're this or you're that or you're this, then you'll be right for me. So I'm going to hang around. I'm going to now nitpick you and very subtly start to mold you to become the right person for me. Is that not selfish? Versus being selfless and realizing, you know what, we're not a match. And I can't accept you for who you are. And you deserve a woman who will love you fully for exactly who you are today. Because I am trying to change you already, it's not fair to you. And you deserve so much better than that. And you set that person free. And then you
Mm,
find someone who's more aligned to what you need so you don't have to change them. Because if they never change for the rest of your life, that's a miserable relationship for you both. So, no changing, okay? So, trust them when they say what they say they want. That's number one. Behavior. When your body responds in a negative way to a man you're dating, you get the ick, you get the ooh, like he looks, I don't know, let's just do textbook stuff, like is rude to the waitress or waiter,
right.
rude to the server. Don't dismiss that as, oh, just one time. No, 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 no. That's a deal breaker. That's a massive red flag. He's disrespectful, rude, entitled. That's who he just showed you he is. And maybe it's not all the time, but it doesn't matter. That's a huge part of who he is.
Mm.
And I know if I was sitting across the table from someone who was like that, my body would react and I would not instantly feel, I would get nerves. I'd be like, I get anxious. Like, okay, I'm embarrassed right now and I'm shocked and that was ugly, right? That's a sign that says run. This isn't being too picky. This is being
Yeah.
smart. Okay. It's different when they leave their socks on the ground. That's too picky. If you're like, I can't see him leave the socks on the ground. Too picky. But if it's like, this guy is rude and disrespectful, run. It's just a matter of time before he targets you.
Ooh.
Um,
Gosh.
and that aligns to checking out other women. You know, it doesn't take long for the guy who will objectify other women, who will break your trust. It doesn't take long for them to do it. So when the flirting starts, or when the checking someone out, or you bring a friend and they start to like, woo, you know, your body feels it. This is where you really get to learn how to trust your feelings.
Mm.
It's not something to dismiss. You're not being difficult. You're not being insecure. A man who is capable of taking care of your emotional needs will do that. And a man who doesn't won't. Very quickly, you will start to feel emotionally unsafe. Now, for a woman who that's normal, meaning their normal is to date men who make them feel that way, this is where their work comes in. This is where you say, checking out other women, flirting with other women, being interested in other women when they're my partner is not okay. Now, if you're dating, these are just the preliminary signs, the little flag that's showing saying, you know, granted, he doesn't owe you anything. Granted, you're not in a relationship, but he does owe you the respect of his attention and his admiration of you on this date if the date's going well. That land,
Right.
because, you know, this is where you know if you're together or not together. If you're both not feeling it, you just end that date. You know,
Yeah.
don't sit there. I have to sit through this whole entire day and torture one another because we are obviously not a match. Sometimes it's best just to say, you know what, until this is not working, we should just save each other some time and get out of here. But I'm saying, you know, when you're with someone and they're playing you
Yeah.
already, they're seeing what they can get away with, and this will happen no matter what it is throughout the first few phases of dating. When your body reacts in a negative way, it's telling you something. You must listen.
So, so key. And I think, like you said, a lot of women don't even recognize this, but I think that's how we really land in our feminine body is knowing, like understanding what it feels like when things are uncomfortable in our own skin, like something, your body is telling you something. It's miraculous. I swear
Yeah,
it really is. And learning to trust that, I think, is
yeah,
so key. And that's, I mean, there's a lot of work that I think to get to that place where you feel such reverence for yourself that you really understand what matters to you and the feeling you get when things are just out of alignment. And I think it takes time to sometimes get there, but that's why we need to do this work to really, I mean, the women you work with are women that want to be intentional, that know they deserve something better, that are ready for love, that are ready for commitment, ready for marriage, ready for whatever it may be. And they're not settling for anything other than what they desire. And
yeah,
again, this is not about like, oh, I want the guy that has $1 billion and da da da. It's not about that. I think all of us at the end of the day just really want love and connection. And so I think, and that's really what matters. There could be so many more blessings that come with that, but that's who we're speaking to today, most importantly. And
yeah.
so, talking about high value man and woman, what is something that a high value man sees in a high value woman? What are some things that he looks for specifically? I know we touched on confidence, which that's kind of for both of us is so key. What are some other things
So if
they
we're
look for?
talking about the high value masculine man, and he's going to want the femininity, right? The nurturer, the softness, the smelling good. It's high on the list for men, smelling good, and women. Um, But yes, you have the confidence, you have the um, playfulness. Don't underestimate the power of playing with men. Women bond through communication, men bond through activity.
Mm.
So it's like activity-based dates are really important when you're first starting to date someone. So starting to connect through play, um, good listener. Okay, men really, as we all value being listened to, that's something that, because women talk, say 3,000 words more, 3,000 more words a day than men do. We talk, 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 right? It's so easy when you're excited meeting a guy, you're just talking all the time to, you know, be a little bit more patient and a little bit more direct. But that way of being, just men really, it's just the way that you make a man feel. And listening is top of that list. Um, Obviously, attractiveness, a woman that takes care of herself, just as women wouldn't want to date a man who let himself go, didn't value his body, didn't value hygiene, didn't value, in essence, take good care of himself. Same for men. Men tend to be visual and they fall in love quicker, right? You'll see a woman, they'll be like, "Whoa, where's my woman?" Women tend to fall in love with listening, the ears, right? It takes us a lot longer as we learn this person. But men are much quicker. And usually it's, again, bam, like, that's my girl. So that visual attraction is important. And I always dance around this a little bit, but the better you take care of yourself, the more you embrace your beauty, you do the things that make you attractive and that stand out, that men don't do to themselves generally, that you get to embrace that. Wear the heels, wear the lipstick, wear the pretty clothes, wear the pretty, the things that make you feminine, and dress to be seen. Don't try to hide, dress to be seen. Embrace your beauty, enhance your beauty. Makes a big difference when it comes to high value, how I see it, to my experience in life. Um, yeah, I mean, there's quite a few, but in general, emotional intelligence. When we're talking high value, we're talking maturity.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of emotional intelligence is drama and toxic relationships, right? And so no high value man would qualify as high value if he's going to tolerate toxic. Then you're suddenly, unfortunately, downgraded to low value. And so really working on your EQ, your ability to communicate, to your ability to manage your emotions, even when you're triggered, and communicate in an empowered way that keeps harmony in your relationship and respect, right? Commitment, being focused on commitment. The second you're the hot, cold woman, I'm leaving you, I'm divorcing you, I'm out of here, and you're always threatening, you're lowering your value. Because what you're really
Mm.
saying is, I'm not a woman who values commitment and the ability to work through anything. I'm always going to run to scare you and use it as a manipulation tool, right? So emotional intelligence is huge, and you should consistently be working on it single, growing into it as you date, becoming more and more and more emotional intelligent, so that when you're in your marriage and things are tough, you're able to communicate through the hard times, again, with love and respect. It will keep your relationship so much healthier. So there's just a few.
Absolutely. So good. And where do you think high value women can meet high value men? What would be some of your recommendations?
I mean, you have to believe that they're everywhere. This isn't always oh, they're at playing
Right.
golf. They're
Right.
at the yacht club. They're volunteering, right? This is where the power of your beliefs really plays a hand in your success here. They are everywhere. They could be living next door. Um, they could be gosh, I'm breaking out of my mom. I can feel myself breaking out of my mom mold right now. I'm thinking about schools and
It's true.
um, like back into single world. But they could be at the grocery store, they could be at church, they could be at the gym, they could be. I mean, I met a great guy when I was just standing on the street one day, and he pulled over and he's like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," and we dated 4 years. That simple, and that's just being open, trusting, and an attractor. So if you believe they're everywhere, you will start to see them everywhere.
True.
But if you believe they're nowhere, then you're not going to find them. because you're always going to prove yourself right. So that's the general advice on that. But then, of course, you can go where your type of guy will hang out. Perhaps you're a dog lover. Well, then go to the dog park. And don't go to the dog park with your head down on your phone, letting your dog run around, look, in your frumpy, huge pajama style clothing with your looking like no makeup and frumpy, right? Go because you want a dog lover. Go ready to talk and mingle to the dog park and be prepared. If your style is, not everybody wants the multimillionaire, to be honest. You have to realize what it is you want in a guy. Who's your match? You look at your lifestyle and you match it. Because the more compatible you are, the healthier and more fun your relationship will be. Differences are good, but again, the more compatible you are, the easier it is. So look at what you love to do. I was I loved fancy restaurants. I loved beautiful hotels. I love the beach and the city. I love people. I socialize a lot. I love movies and I love cooking. There's just things I like. So if I found a guy who didn't like any of that, I like the gym, right? So if I had found a guy who was the opposite, it'd be much more difficult. So you start making your list. I like all these things, especially start thinking about um, in the outside world where guys are hanging out. If we were a match, what would that be? And you make a list and you start hanging out at these places. Now you take it to the next level. I would like a guy who, now if you're the woman who's like, I want a successful man and I want him to be charitable and I want him to be, someone who hangs out in these upscale, high class, influential environments. Maybe you're not there, but that's what you would like. That's okay. You get to have what you want. So what you do is you start to say, okay, guess I'm going to start hanging out at Top Golf. Guess I'm going to start going to these events. Guess I'm going to start volunteering myself. It has to be something you want, not just pretending to want to volunteer. Be a true calling because you don't want to show up inauthentic, right? But going out, I want to volunteer. I want to be the guy who volunteers. So you start volunteering around your area. You start going to the hotel lobby or the hotel restaurants and bars, and you just start to go to the places where your type of man would be, and you just start making that your normal. And I already hear all the women's reasons why they can't do that. I hear it all the time. I don't have a membership. I don't have this. And there's
Right.
always a way for a woman to get in. And there's always a place that will have open doors. And there's always a friend you can make who will bring you. Okay? So don't limit yourself and what's possible for you because you're able to do whatever you want. And you remove the excuses. Okay? So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, so good. So good. So if you're working with somebody for the first time, and let's say they're new to the dating world, they've been single some time, they haven't had luck, they've been on all the dating apps and they're just tired and yet ready for things to change. What are the first things they should do before getting back into the dating world?
So this is that golden opportunity. This is where I say, stop looking outward and look inward. This is the time because if you just keep doing the same old thing, oh, let's get on another app and I'm frustrated, then you're going to get on apps and be frustrated because it's just a law of attraction, right? It's just the way it's going to work. You're not going to, unhappy attracts unhappy. So this is where you have to take a breather and say, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to do some work on myself. I'm going to start to understand why I'm finding it hard. I'm going to understand why I've dated the guys I've dated in the past. I'm going to understand why I'm single today. I'm going to look more into the stories I'm telling myself about love and rewire those stories. I'm going to start to, again, look at, I'm thinking about the work I did and how my program works, but we start to shift the beliefs, the mindset, the way you look at yourself, much you admire yourself, how much you love yourself, how do you care for yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you doing the things in your life that make you happy? Or are you sitting around feeling lonely, like a lonely loser, not liking anything about your life, don't like this, don't like that, everything's not where you want it to be, I'm so frustrated, I'm not where I want to be. How is suddenly going out and then dating just as frustrating too? This is your opportunity. If you really see it as maybe the last time you'll ever be single, to learn how to be alone the best version of you. A relationship shouldn't be a crutch. The second you hear yourself say, when I have him, I'll be better,
Right.
that's a problem, right? I mean, yes, having a great partner will enhance your life immensely. It will. But you get to be happy alone. You do. It's very powerful and attractive. Not so alone that you're super independent and don't need a man, right? But where you're like, I'm content. I love myself. I love the life I built. And now I'm excited to bring a man into this world and join his, where we get to enjoy the beautiful lives we've both built for ourselves together. It's very different. Because do you not want a man who has built a beautiful life for himself? Is not just looking for you to come in and fix his life.
Right.
That wouldn't be attractive. Okay. So, did I answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. You did. Of course. No, perfectly. Absolutely perfectly.
Answer
Which
the whole.
brings me to your program that I know helps women do exactly this and really put them on the path to find the love of their life, the man they want to marry, if that's what they desire. Obviously, those are the women you work with, is somebody that is ready for this. So you have something called the Attract Extraordinary Love Academy. Can you briefly share what this is and what are you offering? And of course, this will be in the show notes for you to grab it right away.
Yeah. So I love the Academy. Um, the Academy is the way that I can help women find extraordinary love. Just how I see it. It's a powerful program. I built it based on everything I learned along my journey that helped me find my husband. And there's three phases. Phase one is empowerment. This is where it's all about all the self love, self respect, self admiration, self worth, where I really help you step into your queen before you start dating, ideally, because we want the queen to meet the king, right? And so this is where you get to move into dating in a very feminine, graceful, empowered way, with the ability to speak your truth, to set your standards, to follow the strict 7 dating strategy. We're setting you up to succeed. Phase two is dating, helping you with your online dating profiles, helping you with your pictures, helping you build District 7, helping you learn how to flirt, how to communicate, how to text, how to do everything as far as even how to dress, like everything as far as how to show up as a high value woman, grow into that confidence, grow into that irresistibility, and attract the type of man you told me you wanted when you started this program. You get to rise up to meet that person, right? And then the manifestation, the belief system around it, the trust and the flow and the ease around it. That's two. And then three, which is a piece that I think every woman needs, is once you find him, can you keep him,
Of
right?
course.
So if you can't, if you haven't done the third phase, which is relationship skills, then you could be in trouble, because again, that's a whole other education to learn outside of learning how to date. So now we learn about relationship skills and the things that are so important for a woman, to the way a woman gets to act in her relationship so her husband is happy, truly is happy husband, happy wife, and your husband becomes miserable. Everything falls apart. It's not always happy wife, happy life, right? And this is, again, I teach women. So what do we have as women the power to do to build the healthiest relationships? How do we get to show up in our feminine in these relationships as the best partner to him? Okay, so those are the three phases. I've made it ridiculously affordable for the first time ever. I mean, I've sold this program. I coached this program. It was around 10,000. I've sold this program for up to 2,400. But this is it's a self study. Currently, in this moment, it's just $7, which is again
Insane.
$7. Not the program's not $7.
Yes.
$7 trial to get in. You can try it for $7, and then you come in, and then it's just a $97 a month membership, and you just jump in. And I made this affordable because we're a people before profits company, and I don't want money to be the reason that you can't find love. And there also has to be some skin in the game. $97 is like nothing, right? So if you're not willing to spend $97, I'm like, how bad do you want it? So it's
Exactly.
very affordable. You come in, you have all the entire program immediately. I always advise you go through it in order, but you come in, you have the entire program, you have me in there now. So I'm there to coach you. I have a team of coaches, all past clients, and my coaches have been with me for as long as 6 or 7 years at this point.
Wow.
Um, and we're just a company of love. We're here to come in, have you start to feel safe, learn how to build strong relationships. We always take a stand as how to model that to you. And it's just a very, I love my company. It's a beautiful company. We're a loving team. And there's a lot of education to learn when it comes to dating, love, and even self. So I just really inspire any woman who has a story of struggle when it comes to love to choose a different path and to say, you know what, I do have control over this. You do. You're not a victim here. You just haven't been taught how to do things different. And so when you start to learn how to do things different, your life completely starts to change. And all of a sudden you'll realize, wow, like love is actually a lot easier than I thought it was, just because you decided to be the change for yourself. So that's the program.
Amazing. And the $7 is for how many day trial, or what's the?
$7 for 7 days. And
Okay.
then, it just moves into a membership.
That's a stellar deal. Let me just tell you, I spend thousands of dollars on a life coach to help me learn the lessons I needed to learn and do the work. And mind you, I worked with her 3 times. So it took me a good amount of time, but I obviously needed to learn. I needed to be hit over the head
Yeah.
a couple times before I learned my lessons, I
I
must
went
say.
back and told you how much I spent on my self development and even all the trainings and the coaches. And we're pushing, I think I did the math once at like $250,000 in
I
my
could
own.
only, yeah. I mean, I hear you. I hear you so much. I mean, so this is a no brainer. I'm so excited to have you on the show, Christine. This makes me just overjoyed beyond belief. Number one, I adore you. But number two, what you're teaching today is gold. And because this was very much my journey, a lot of the things she shared, if only I had known this then, I would have saved myself from a lot of heartbreaks. But then again, now I'm married to the love of my life, and it led, like, all the things I need to go through led me here. So it's okay. Like, I'm thankful for everything. But I just know that for somebody that's single, this is gold. It's very inexpensive, and I could tell how much value is provided in this just by working with Christine. And again, I want you to, can you tell people where to follow you on
Oh,
social?
Instagram at Christine Campbell Pate. And the link for the program will be on this page. But also, I have it linked at the top of my Instagram page.
Amazing. I'm so, so happy we had this conversation. Thank you so much, Christine. I so love and adore you. This was so remarkable. So much gold in this. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.